A Pechakucha presentation. Some of you may know him as one of the most controversial thinkers of the 1960s and a brilliant former Harvard teacher. Others believe him to be a hardened convict with a record of making home in 29 different prisons worldwide. President Nixon claimed him to be known as the most dangerous man in America, finding fame as a movie star, writer, psychologist, numerous medals of honor including the World War II Victory Medal, and leading the 60s with a hard grip and using psychedelics to research and medical studies. Dr. Egan, I introduce you to Dr. Timothy F. Leary, born October 22nd, 1920, was succumbing to prostate cancer in May 31st, 1996. Timothy made a compelling movie to follow the end of his life with deep discussions of his philosophy and recorded right until his last dying words saying, "Why not?" and "beautiful." Now that we have covered most of the wild themes and adventures in Timothy Leary's life, I want to begin discussing why I chose him as a futurologist for this slidecast. The raw intelligence in Leary is something that is a rarity and hard to be overlooked. If you reject him for the basis of a long track record of controversial decisions through his actions, from defending LSD and other psychedelic drugs for medical treatment and research, to questioning and resisting the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, and eventually outwitting the DEA, and overturning the act of the Supreme Court while facing a 30-year conviction, one would be ignorant to this man's intelligence. These reasons are unparalleled to the holistic view of Timothy Leary's actions. I chose him because he questioned every form of authority with precision and by his own words. Start quote, "In the information age, you don't teach philosophy as they did after feudalism. You perform it." If Aristotle were alive today, he'd have a talk show. End quote. The ideas found throughout many of Timothy Leary's books produce an interesting read from a futurist perspective. The most intriguing idea, I believe, was written by Timothy during his stay inside a prison. The phase known as SMI²LE, SMILE, stands for Space Migration Increased Intelligence, Life Extension. Through some of these ideas are not a reality yet and will take much more time, there is the possibility that the future could have space migration with a Mars colony. Interestingly, the idea of increased intelligence is prevalent with the Flynn effect, which is the average IQ score increasing every year, little by little. The next idea, life extension, sadly did not come within grasp of Timothy's lifespan and to combat his prostate cancer, but today has made huge progress within medical advancement and research, such as cancers and genetic disorders and proper knowledge of nutrition for increasing one's own lifespan through care and eating habits. Timothy was also a transhumanist, claiming that humans will eventually progress to a future where humanity is liberated from outdated morality, implying that the evolution of humans, especially in the new breed era, a term used in his book, start quote, "Chaos in Cyberculture," end quote, will have the people of then, aka right now, to be of different means in communication, with ultra-fast paced modems such as the internet. Good guess, Timothy. Facebook would have hired you. And an analysis of what our generation would be like. Individualism was key to this theme. Amongst this, the funny idea of labeling our generation as irrelevant and techno music being a more popular choice of the 21st century made me chuckle. Dubstep and EDM, electro dance music, as it is now called, is one of the leading styles in the mainstream media. These calculated ideas were quite interesting and humorous to read being in the present. Getting on to one of the more infamous topics that Timothy Leary was known for was the defense of psychedelic drugs in the medical research. Do not confuse this for the support of narcotics. Timothy was strongly against any of the so-called brain-numbing substances, such as alcohol, heroin, morphine, and cocaine, but believed there was a use for other substances to increase people's neuron connections and deepen the depth in how the brain made connections and perceived thoughts. These ideas later in life led Timothy down the road of disputes between him and the United States Drug Enforcement Agency. Interestingly, the development of SSRIs and other drugs such as ADHD medicine have been approved with the purpose of increasing focus and holding in brain chemicals such as serotonin for longer than normal durations, and FDA approval, all with the release of these drugs appearing on the market in the mid-90s and coming to popular use by the 2000s. Another prediction by Timothy was the idea of smart drugs, and that is exactly what ADHD pills such as methylphenate, commonly known as Concerta or Vyvanse, are referred as. Lastly, I'd like to examine the ideology that Timothy preached to put forth the new ideas of how one should go about when heading to the future. He made a point in his book, start quote, Timothy Leary Transhumanism with a Smile, end quote, that described rapid acceleration of knowledge in our new technology-based information society, stating the only way to understand and keep up is to accelerate brain function. And to achieve this, he lays out the reader a blueprint, in which 3 ways you choose your path in life. The first one is religion, with the phrase, "Since the apocalypse is inevitable, the only thing to do is pray." Second, politics. Grab what you can and protect what you've got. And lastly, my favorite, science. Increase intelligence, expand your consciousness, and surf the waves of chaotic change. Hopefully, this quick insight of Timothy Leary's perceptions and philosophy on life will help you pick the best route for your way to a better future. Thank you.